Here's your reminder that it's not normal for your grown kids to completely cut communication with you. You did something. It's your fault.
You're right, Scholar. It's not normal for them to cut you off. However, leveling that accusation at all the parents, and maybe, you had a certain context you're speaking to here, but I will just tell you, it's not always the parents. I'm a therapist. I work with people. Sometimes the kids, the adult kids, sometimes they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Sometimes the parents are. But, yeah, it's not normal for kids to want to cut contact, but that doesn't mean it's the parents. And everyone just needs to take, personal responsibility, get all their stuff sorted within themselves, attempt to communicate, with people, and hopefully it doesn't go no contact, but, yeah, it's not always the parents.
Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I would love it if you would help me to grow this channel and hit that subscribe button. And if you're returning, welcome back. I truly do appreciate your continued support on my channel, and I hope that you are subscribed as well. So a couple of weeks ago, this issue of adult children going no contact with their parents just kind of landed on my radar. And ever since it came to my attention, I have just been looking further into it, and it's definitely something that I just need to talk more about. Now, before I go any further, I want to give a couple of disclaimers. First, it might be obvious to you, it might not be obvious to you, but I am not a therapist. Therefore, I am not diagnosing anyone with anything. None of what I say should be taken as if it were coming from someone with a medical license or credentials in therapy, and nothing I'm saying is meant to substitute for getting help from a professional or to discourage anyone from getting help from a professional if that's what you need, or to encourage anyone to stop treatment that they are currently involved in. All I'm offering is my opinion on what people are saying and what is happening, my personal analysis of it, but that is it. It is just my opinion. Secondly, as I said several times in my last video, yet it still seemed to be completely lost on people, the situations that I am questioning of where adult kids have cut off their parents, they're not the situations that actually involve abuse, whether it be alcoholism or drug use in the home or physical abuse or any other kind of dangerous scenarios, some of which I can't describe or YouTube will flag my video. Those are all scenarios where everyone, myself included, fully understand the need and the decision to isolate yourself from one or both parents. I am not questioning every single scenario where an adult child has cut off a parent or both parents or other family members, because not every reason for doing so is the same, and I don't think that we should be treating every single situation as the same, like this gal is, unfortunately. And I know that even with that clarification, I'm still going to get those comments from people that think that I'm telling them that if their parent was a drug addict, that they should still be in their life, or if their parent didn't provide food or a safe home for them, that they are still entitled to be in your life just because they are a parent. But I just want to say that's not what I'm saying. I am just deeply, deeply concerned about how common of a movement this has become of adult children cutting off their parents, because as we've seen, this is not a normal thing. This is not normal behavior. So in my last video, I shared a few TikTok videos of people who had shared their stories of cutting off their parents. And in that video, I focused mainly on the impact of social media and algorithms and what those can do to people's behaviors and rewiring their decision-making process, and how many irrational and even dangerous things we've seen people do just because of a trend or just because of a social media challenge. And no, I am not saying that there is a official no contact challenge on social media, but what I am saying is that when you see a surge in a specific kind of behavior that is extremely abnormal, you have to wonder what the impact of social media is on that. And this surge has been so noticeable that there are people writing articles about it and asking the same questions about what is happening. In this article from the Daily Wire from July, so just a few months ago, it says the trend of going no contact with parents and family has ripped across social media and through friend groups over the last few years, gaining popularity especially among younger Americans and LGBT people. On TikTok, the hashtag toxic family has 1.9 billion views, and the hashtag no contact has 1.4 billion views. About 27% of American adults are estranged from a family member, Cornell University professor Carl Pillemer found in 2020. He believes the trend is particularly strong among white and non-immigrant millennials and Gen Zers under age 35 in the US and other Western countries. So as I've been looking at this issue, did pose the question on my Facebook page that I dedicate to talking about a lot of the issues that I talk about on YouTube, asking if anybody had heard of this no contact movement, if they personally had experienced it, or if they knew somebody that had experienced it. And I was shocked at not only how many responses I got to the public question, but how many private messages I got. So I don't think that people realize just how big of a thing this has become. And if it's something that you are going through, just realize that you are not alone at all, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I guess it depends on how you look at it. So a couple of very common themes that I have seen in what people are talking about. First, parents who have adult children that have cut them off. A lot of them have never been told why. Some who have been estranged for years still have no idea what happened. And adult children will ask, well, has that parent even tried to reach out to their kid? Have they even asked their kid why or what's going on? And they're assuming that when a parent says that they have no idea why their child has cut them off, that the parent just doesn't care enough to ask. In reality, it really does mean that just one day this kid flipped a switch, stopped talking to them, and will not respond to their parent when their parent has asked them what is happening. Secondly, I have seen a lot of these no contact adult children say that they would be willing to reconcile their relationship if the parent agreed to sit down with a therapist with them. However, I've also seen countless stories of parents agreeing to do this or even offering to do this and offering to pay for it, and their child still won't do it. Of course, I understand that it would probably be difficult in some circumstances to actually get your parent to go to a therapist, but it does make me wonder if the parent is really the problem, or are they looking at this situation and thinking, if there's a problem that my child has with me, my adult child, then they should be willing to come to me with it and sit down and talk about it like grown adults instead of relying on medication and therapy to solve everything. Because I have to say that these young adults that are coming up after my generation are a lot more soft than any of the generations before them. So what I want to talk about now are some of the TikTok therapists who are advising people that click on this no contact hashtag or the toxic family hashtag, and how once your kid gets pulled into this algorithm, how it could definitely warp their perception of their family, their childhood, you as their parents, enough so cutting off their parents suddenly makes sense to them. What I find concerning about a lot of these therapists is that they take a lot of these definitions and a lot of their advice and apply it to every single parent-child relationship that might have any kind of conflict. And then you end up with the video with the first girl that I shared, where she's like, it doesn't matter what the situation is, the parent is to blame, you did something.
Some people cannot get behind the idea of trauma or the definition of trauma or what happened in their past. Like, let's say you had parents that they weren't the most aware, or they didn't have the ability to like emotionally attune to you very well. So maybe they're well-meaning, it was a loving, warm environment, home and everything. But whenever big emotions happened, they just didn't quite know what to do with it. So they handled it poorly. Maybe not where they're like, you can't, where they're like shouting and yelling or doing anything physical, but to where they're just like really handling it poorly. And then you come to hold the belief that whenever you have big emotions, it makes you too much. And so then you start shutting down when that happens. Is that trauma? Is that wounding? It's a really great question, because we don't really know where to draw the line. And it's actually for each person to decide what that looks like for them.
So this particular therapist has a lot of content geared towards this no contact issue. And what bothers me about what she is saying here is pretty much the point that I've been focusing on this whole time, that this definition of trauma can be thrown around so easily. She's using a scenario that like 99% of parents experience when their kid has big emotions, or one or both parent and child are having a bad day, and saying that just might qualify as trauma. She doesn't want you to be fooled by having a loving and stable home, because if you look hard enough, you'll realize that you were actually being traumatized. It feels like she's pretending that words don't have any meaning so that she can widen the scope of potential therapy patients. And that's a common theme in people of a particular belief system these days, that words mean whatever you want them to mean, and that if you just feel like that particular thing, in this case, if you just feel like you've been traumatized or abused, then that means you are. And that makes me wonder what other words that we're going to just throw around and pretend that they don't have a real definition, like abuse, toxic, narcissism. It doesn't matter if you were actually abused and had toxic, narcissistic parents. It only matters if you think that that's who your parents were and that's what they were doing. Anybody that comes across this content with that kind of question in their mind, once they listen to these broad definitions of all of these words that shockingly all of these no contact adult children are now using, that person will click on more videos that say the same thing, or of other people who have cut their parents off because they were toxic or narcissistic, and because they've taken scenarios that pretty much every kid and every parent goes through while they're raising their kids. There's literally no one that does not qualify as having a toxic or narcissistic parent. And because I do believe that the belief system of your therapist matters, because they bring a lot of that into your therapy sessions with you, I was going to show another clip of hers that has absolutely no relation to this no contact issue whatsoever, but it's just of her telling men that they're limiting their potential of finding a great partner in life by not being willing to date men who call themselves women, and that they need to find not only a therapist to help them break down those outdated boundaries, but to find a therapist that identifies as a feminist, because that's who's really going to be able to help them. So let's have a look at another one.
What's all this about you not going to Mum's for Christmas? Oh, hello, Simon. Fine, thank you. How are you? Stop being petty. Why are you doing this to Mum? Doing what? Abandoning her at Christmas? I'm not abandoning her, Simon. Did she tell you I told her 3 times that I wasn't going? That's not the point, and you know it. You know how much she likes having the children at Christmas. You're being very, very selfish. It's not selfish to want Christmas in my own home, Simon. And this is exactly the sort of thing that makes me want to not go. What do you mean? You ringing me to harass me about not doing something she feels entitled to with absolutely no concern as to whether or not I want to go. It's so toxic. She's sending you to do her dirty work for her. Don't be ridiculous, Rachel. She doesn't know I'm calling you. I decided to call you after she called me, distraught. As if she didn't know you wouldn't call me immediately, Simon. It's toxic. I don't have to do what she wants just because she wants it. Oh, for God's sake, here we go again. What is it about all this toxic shit? You're like a dog with a bone. She's your mother. Let it go. No, I'm not. I just want healthy relationships in my life. If you're so bothered, Simon, may I suggest you take your children and go and stay with her for Christmas? Take care. Bye.
So I honestly think that this little skit demonstrated the opposite of what she intended. I think most people watching this would actually think, that actually sounds kind of selfish. First, I understand that it's not always possible to go see family for Christmas or for any of the holidays, and that everyone's family prioritizes the holidays differently. In my family, getting together for Thanksgiving and Christmas has always been a big deal, and that's something I've carried with me into adulthood. My husband and I have always made it a priority to either see his family or my family each year and make sure that our kids have that value instilled in them. Not just about spending time with family at Christmas, but that family does matter. What bothers me about this is that through the part that she's playing of her brother, she is overusing the word toxic. And clearly this is something that has come up with her in the past in real life. She's sending the message that a parent who wants to see you during the holidays, just because they're your child, is toxic. If your parent wants to see you during the holidays, there's no other reason needed other than the fact that you are their family and you are their child. And anyone who finds themselves in this no contact sphere of TikTok might come across this and think, I didn't think I had toxic parents, but maybe I do. They're always asking me to come home for Christmas. I guess that means that I have a toxic family. And then they click on more videos of the same subject, and suddenly, again, they're led from healthy, normal parent to toxic parent to no contact parent. And I have about 3 small clips of this same lady because this is a huge focus of her page on TikTok. And there are so many things that she says that are so problematic to me. But the theme of her advice is that parents are always in the wrong. They are always the one to blame, and they are always the ones that are responsible for fixing everything.
I haven't really been able to watch her videos because they're very triggering.
Okay, I'm going to try to do this mother to mother. Yes, I did DM you privately, and I did say that I see a lot of pain in your eyes, and you're right, I do. I see pain in your eyes every time I watch your videos. It's kind of heartbreaking to me. But I think you misconstrued what I'm saying. I don't believe that the pain in your eyes is coming because your daughter went no contact. I know you think that's where your pain is coming from, but it's not. And that's why you can't heal the pain. That's why this pain is running in circles around you for such a long period of time, because your focus is on, oh, my daughter went no contact, therefore I am an estranged parent, therefore I feel pain. The healing comes when you take a look at yourself and you're able to out yourself and own your own mistakes, own what you did, own the stuff that happened that you wish you had never done. You say you don't watch my videos much because they trigger you, and so you can't watch them. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. If you want to heal from pain, stop running from triggers.
Maybe she finds your videos triggering because you're extremely condescending. I honestly believe that as human beings in general, we should always do our best to rectify situations where we have hurt someone else. No matter what the situation is, we need to look at ourselves and learn from it, and then try to correct whatever the thing is that we did or said that caused hurt feelings to someone else so that we can avoid doing it again. It is absolutely insane to go so far out in left field to tell this woman that the hurt she is feeling is not because her daughter is not talking to her. And just saying that, in my opinion, means that you should not be advising anyone on how to handle relationships of any kind, let alone parents and their children, because that's ludicrous. Of course, that's why she's hurting. The situation of knowing that your child is choosing not to involve you in their life is worse than if they died, because they're out there living their lives and you know that you are missing out on so much and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But the message here is not only minimizing this parent's grief of having a child that won't talk to them, but also sending the message to adult kids who have cut off their parents that if your parent tries to tell you that they are hurt and sad because you have cut them out of your life, don't believe them. That's what they want you to believe. But the truth is that they're really just upset because they're too narcissistic to face their own mistakes. Next, she's going to try and offer advice to those parents who do have kids that just won't tell them why they're not talking to them anymore.
What if your low contact adult child or your no contact adult child or children won't tell you what the problem is? What if they just simply won't tell you? How am I supposed to know what the problem is if they won't even talk to me about what I did? That puts the burden of responsibility on our children. It actually puts the burden of responsibility on the child to tell the parent what the parent did wrong in parenting. And our children are too afraid to tell us. If your child has not told you why, then that means they're too afraid to tell you why. Now, I know you're going to go, what? Why are they too afraid? I'm safe. They can come to me with anything. That's your perception of it. I understand that.
Of course, it is the adult child's responsibility to bring it up to the parent. We're not talking about a young child or someone who's under the age of 18 who is still learning to communicate. And a lot of times, us parents, we do need to pry a little bit to get out of them what is wrong. We are talking about grown adults who have a problem with something and are perfectly capable of bringing it to the attention of their parents. And how on earth are these parents supposed to know what specifically is bothering their kid? You can't expect a parent to be able to file through 18 years of raising their child and pinpoint the one thing that is bugging them now. And not only that, perceptions are different. Recollections of events are different. So what this adult child might be remembering as hurtful or troubling, their parent isn't remembering the same way. So that thing might not even be in that parent's memory as something that needs to be addressed. And she's sending the message that if your parent can't figure out what you're mad about, they're the problem, they're toxic, therefore they deserve the estrangement that they're getting.
I just found out that there's a creator here on TikTok who's gone no contact with her parents, and her parents actually got an attorney and served her with a cease and desist letter so that she can no longer make TikToks, or they're trying to stop her from making TikToks. It's freedom of speech, dude. When someone's telling the truth, you can't stop people from telling the truth. But what kind of parent hears their kid say, "This is the stuff that happened to me and it's so painful to me," and the parent then thinks, "Oh my God, I need to get a lawyer so I can stop her from telling everybody exactly what I did"?
Yes, it's free speech. And honestly, I don't think that the cease and desist is going to hold up. But this woman is assuming that the child who is talking about their parents and plastering this whole situation all over TikTok is being 100% honest. And because they've said, "This is my truth," that there's no room to question it. What if the parent's truth is completely different than what their child is saying? How is their truth any less valid if that's the definition of truth that we're going to abide by, that whatever someone says is absolute fact and we're not allowed to question it? It's not even fathomable to her that the child could be misrepresenting her parents, and she has the advantage of being able to say whatever she wants as truth because no one is ever going to hear her parents' version of the story. And this therapist doesn't seem to care a whole lot about her parents having the chance to respond or share their side of things, or to perhaps offer some kind of context about whatever it is that their daughter is complaining about. We can't always just take one person's side of things at face value. Just a little story of my own. The other night, my middle son and my daughter and my husband were playing a game. They were playing a video game in the living room, and everything was fine. And then out of nowhere, my son gets up from the couch and walks into my room and just throws himself down on the bed, and he starts crying. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? They were just fine like 8 seconds ago. So I come in and I sit down beside him and I'm like, what's wrong? What happened? And he tells me that he's upset because they didn't get to play the game that he wanted to play, that they only played the game that his sister wanted to play. And he felt like nobody was considering his feelings, and that, he was tired of his little sister always getting her way. And then, of course, it was time to get ready for bed, so they weren't going to have time to play more games, including the one that he wanted to do. So I let him be upset for a minute, but in my head, I'm thinking there's no way that my husband is just going to ignore what my son wants to do or disregard his feelings or his requests. There's got to be more to the story. So then my husband comes in and says that yes, my son first requested a game, but the game he wanted to play, the controllers that are needed for that game needed to be charged. And they couldn't play the game because the controllers were not usable. So then they switched and just played the game that my daughter wanted to play. And by the time it was time to stop and get ready for bed, the controllers still weren't ready. So my husband told him, "I'm sorry we didn't get to play your game tonight, but we will play it tomorrow." So we have two very different versions of event. And it's not that I think that my son was intentionally lying to me, but he was upset about not playing his game. He was upset about how the events played out, and he was now upset that he wasn't going to get to play the game that he had first asked for. He wanted to be able to feel those feelings in that moment, even though there was a lot more context to the story that was important. I can give a little bit more grace to someone who's 11 years old instead of a grown adult. Guys, I don't know these therapists, and I'm sure that they think they're doing good work. At least That's their perception of it. And I'm just giving you my perception of what it is that they're saying and just how easily anybody can be pulled into this no contact narrative. And even the most normal of childhood experiences can be twisted and labeled as toxic or abusive. None of us have come from homes with parents that didn't make mistakes or lose their temper or said or did the wrong things at different times. And as you get older, ideally, you gain a more mature perspective that actually allows you to give grace to the mistakes that your parents made when you were growing up. You realize how limited your understanding was as a child, and as an adult, you can see that your parents were actually doing their best, but that because they're human, that things didn't always go smoothly. And as you get older, you realized just how easily you or anyone else can make those type of mistakes, but you also learn to let them go. And as I said before, I know that there are legitimate reasons to cut off a parent. However, I do worry about what seems to be this movement aimed at turning any negative childhood experience into a reason to make such a drastic decision. And I have some very serious questions about the therapists who are advising people on this, because we have been given plenty of reasons in numerous other situations to question what the medical and mental health industries are actually trying to do for people. In the sphere of going no contact with parents, I've seen several parents who have been dealing with this situation for so long with their own child, who have gotten to the point where if their child even asked to come back into their life, they're not even sure that they would let them. And on the other side, I've seen adult children who have cut off their parents, and they're trying to come to terms with the loneliness that comes from making that decision. I saw a gal post the other day about how she has been hit with the realization that she doesn't have anybody in her life who loves her the most, who would be there for her no matter what, who she can just pick up the phone and call when she's struggling with anything. And of course, all of these people are commenting saying, we're going to be here for you. We're your new community. Like, we'll support you. You're not alone. But we know that that is not even remotely close to the same. Are these the people who would drop everything to come to where you live if you were having a hard time? Are they the ones that are going to hold your hand if you get hurt or sick? Are they the ones who are truly interested in what you learned in a class recently, or the new job that you just started, or the new relationship that you just got into? Are they the ones that are going to help you plan your wedding, or the people that you can give a Christmas list to, or who are going to help you pay your rent or a bill if you need it? And are they the ones, just by hearing you say hello on the phone or by the way your text messages change, that they can tell something is wrong? Of course not. There are no perfect family relationships. And I mean, if we want to talk about toxic behavior that might cause a permanent wedge between a parent and a child, if our parents took these definitions of toxic behavior and applied them to our teenage years, we would have all been kicked out of our homes at around the age of 15. And when you become a parent, you truly realize how imperfect you are and how much you don't have it figured out. I mean, I love my children more than anything on earth. I would throw myself in front of a bus for them if that's what I needed to do to keep them safe. And I wouldn't even think twice about it. But I have definitely had more times than I can count when I am convinced that I have scarred my child for life, or that I worry that they're going to remember all the times when I was not the best parent, or the times when I lost my temper, or just had a bad day and I did not handle, being around them or being with them in the best way. But what I'm also teaching my kids is forgiveness, because we all need forgiveness at some point in our lives, numerous times, because we all do things that hurt other people, usually unintentionally, because I believe that most people do not go around in life wanting to harm others. But I need forgiveness and grace, and your parents need forgiveness and grace, and you need forgiveness and grace. But you can't expect it from other people if it is not something that you are willing to give yourself. So that is it for this one. Guys, I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, or any additional thoughts that you have. I know this is a very sensitive subject, but I just haven't been able to let it go because I am so deeply concerned about how easily people are separating themselves from the people that they love the most, from their primary support system. And those are things that just cannot be replaced. Please hit that like button. It helps me tremendously in the algorithm. Please make sure that you are subscribed. I am trying to grow this channel and get to 10,000 subscribers, hopefully in the near future. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.